Forgotten Realms has by all accounts succeeded in merging Magic and D&D, and as a result, we have many incredibly flavourful cards to play with. So, which cards stood out to us, and what flavour beats have us the most excited? Welcome to Magic the Flavouring, the Magic the Gathering podcast. We talk about all things Magic flavour design and lore. I'm your host, Andy Mann.
Hello, this is Nathan Puddle. Because
It's hot.
Jesus Christ, yes, it is sweltering.
It's so hot, and we don't have air conditioning.
No, and we've got no fans. Well, we've got fans of the show, but I haven't got a fan in the building.
I hope we have fans of the show. Hello, fan of the show.
Just in the background.
Oh, I meant like our one fan, like the one person who listens to us.
One guy just flapping himself with a fan. He's just gone full meta. It's like, oh, I'm a fan with a fan.
Oh, then we have two fans then. That's fine.
Beautiful magic. Love it.
All right, we are doing our Flavour Picks episode. We know we have more than one fan. Please don't be offended. We love you all. We are doing our Flavour Picks episode for Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. So last week we barely recorded a coherent episode.
We attempted
about just the general flavour of the thing. It was so bad, but I love doing it. It was so big. We were completely unprepared. And we've also spoken about its role as a potential core set. And now we're just doing our straight down the line, one of our top 5 flavour picks. If you've listened to our flavour picks episodes before, you will know that there is almost no structure into what we can pick as one of our 5. It can be an individual card, it can be a cycle of cards, it can be a general theme that we picked up on that we think's really cool, it can be an individual artist, it can be literally anything, but we're going to hone in on 5 each flavour aspects, I suppose, rather than picks of this set, and talk about what we like. And there might be a couple of flavour misses. We don't like to dwell too much on things that don't quite work, because I mean, there is always so much more that does than that doesn't. But there's a couple of things I think that we want to talk about where we're like, that was an interesting choice. We wonder why they made it, because it didn't quite land for us.
Yeah, right. It's the discussion of why we didn't think it hit the mark, and more of like what they were trying to do, or whether that kind of idea, more than poo, this is shit, we don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right. Well, let's just get cracking. The set's been spoiled now for quite a while, and it's already out on Arena, and I think by this point the pre-release has happened, hasn't it? Has the pre-release happened?
Yeah. Previous was this weekend, just gone.
Oh, excellent, cool. We were too busy working to even notice it. So there we go. All right, Nathan, kick us off. What is your number 1, or any honourable mentions, or however the hell you want to do it? I don't know.
Okay, let's start with honourable mention. The honourable mention was a card that I was really glad to see in the set, and that's Long Rest. X green, sorcery, return X target cards with different mana values from your graveyard to your hand. If 8 or more cards were returned to your hand this way, your life total becomes equal to your starting life total. Exile Long Rest. Flavor text: a job well done means a rest well earned. The reason I choose this is because when I was looking through the set, for some reason I didn't notice it when I was kind of overviewing it and seeing all the spoilers out. I did a quick Control F on Mythic Spoiler. Turns out that doesn't work. So then when I scrolled through and I happened to see it, I was like, oh, it is in the set, and it was after I'd already chosen all my flavour picks. I was like, well, honourable mention it. Very difficult thing to pull off, the 8 different mana values. Even in Commander, that's like really difficult. But I like the idea that, like in D&D, if you have a rest that's of 8 hours or longer, your hit points are restored. Same thing with the card. If you return 8 different cards, your hit points are restored as well. Your life total goes back to its original. Really nice, succinct. Glad it's in the set. It would have been weird not to have it. I think it makes sense. It's a green card. Yeah, not much more to say about it. I think it's just quite cool.
Yeah, I think it's very cool. Yeah, you're right. That mechanic of any card that has, do something with lots of different mana values, or CMCs, I guess it would be on a lot of other cards, is always very tricky. I have a Tempsis All Seeing, the Sphinx, in my Atlas deck, and I have got there a couple of times. That card has won me the game, or at least knocked out a few players in some, but it takes a lot of setup. And the other one that I was always kind of disappointed by, because it looks like it would be absolutely rad, is Azul's Gateway. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't get there.
The only one I play is Seasons Past in Tasiga, because it's just bonkers to be able to return and loop like Demonic Tutors with all of the extra value in it. Beyond that, obviously this is kind of I feel like this is a redux version of Seasons Past, because not only does it exile itself instead of going on the bottom of your library, but also you have to hit a certain number of cards for it to get that extra bonus.
If anyone wanted to know what kind of EDH player Nathan Cancel is, he just used the phrase loop Demonic Tutors.
Hey, it's a Tasiga deck. Again, you got to lean into the douche. The guy's an arsehole. If you don't play an arsehole... I mean, I got slapped about with the deck yesterday, so don't worry. Turns out when my hands are too clammy to hold my hand in my hand, I turn real shit at Magic.
Oh. Oh, well, yeah, that's a fundamental, really, is to be able to arrange the cards in a way that you can sequence
Yeah, I
them.
just had to leave them on the table. It felt really weird not having something to riffle and shuffle. Like my thought process just kind of fell apart, which is a whole different conversation about the mannerisms of Magic players. But hey,
Fair enough. Cool. All right. Well, let's jump. I'll do my first proper one. I don't have any honourable mentions, so I'll just jump into my first proper one. It is Gelatinous Cube, which is 2 black for a 4/3 creature ooze, and it has 2 like flavor text ability word things, whatever they're called. So it has Engulf. When Gelatinous Oob enters the battlefield, exile target non-ooze creature an opponent controls until Gelatinous Cube leaves the battlefield. And it has Dissolve. Pay X and a black, put target creature card with mana value X, exiled with Gelatinous Cube, into its owner's graveyard. Now, the Gelatinous Cube is one of D&D's most iconic dungeon creatures, both because it's so dangerous and also because I think it has this kind of cult following of the fact that it's just so ridiculous. Like, it's literally it is
jelly.
a gelatinous cube. It's a big jelly. That's a cube. And it's an ooze. Like, it's almost like so ridiculous it's terrifying. And it's even made its way into things like the is it Disney Pixar or is it just Pixar, the film Onward with Tom Holland and
I
Chris
believe
Pratt?
it's Disney. Ooh, that's a good
I don't
question.
know. I always get confused. But anyway, there's the film Onward, where it's the D&D fantasy world when it gets turned into like just modern day, and then they find out that actually like all fantasy and magic is real. It's that kind of sort of spin on it. And one of the, not to spoil it for anyone, it's a good movie if you want to see it, but one of like the end monsters that they encounter is the gelatinous cube. So it's even made its way into that kind of pop culture. And yeah, the fact that it has the ability to like suck in the whatever creature you're trying to destroy with it, and then the dissolve, like the bit where it ingests it and actually dissolves it in its ooze, is like a separate ability, is very cool, because in its sort of like D&D iteration, the way that it's worded for like Dungeon Masters is that your party does have the chance to save you after you've been caught by it, so you're not just immediately insta-killed. So I really like this idea that it has like 2 abilities, Engulf and Dissolve. And also, just shout out again, these flavor text abilities, it's fucking great. They're just great. How can you not like that? It is exactly what it is.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of, because Fiend Hunter kind of doesn't make sense. Like, why does the creature come back when Fiend Hunter dies?
Yeah.
Whereas this makes perfect sense. Like, there's nothing worse than losing your favorite sword to Gelatinous Cube when you're trying to hit it, because you're a D&D newbie and you don't realize it's trying to cut up a jelly isn't the way. It's not a trifle. It's not a trifle, Nathan. What are you trying to eat it for?
It's not trifle cube. It's gelatinous cube.
Exactly. So yeah, that's really good. It kind of gives away, and it's also like an extra spin on the normal kind of prison effect that we've seen of where it can exile and then get rid of the creature. I think it's the first time we've ever seen a card do this. Of where
it's very cool. Also, a nice little spin on oozes. Like, oozes are kind of fine in Magic. Like, they have their own identity. They either do +1/+1 counter things, or they do like split off and multiply things. Like, the ooze kind of
ochre jelly that's literally in the set.
Like they have that, but you have like Slurk or Devouring or like Scavenging Ooze. There's this kind of thing where they do ingesting things, but they're in sort of very specific ways. Whereas this reads just like literally like the ooze is eating a creature and then digesting it. So yeah, pretty cool.
Very cool, very cool. From one super well-known ominous creature of D&D to another. It's a segue that I'm also then going to segue away from. So we had Gingerbrute, right? A lovely artifact creature that happened to be a golem, and then because it was also a food type and had the food ability. Parcelmere in Recent Modern Horizons 2 is a 2/1 that has the ability to sacrifice it, draw a card. That's the clue ability, right? So it's also a clue in its typing. Well, now we've got an artifact treasure. That's not only a treasure, but also a shapeshifter, and that is, of course, Mimic.
Mimic.
So the reason I like this card, even though I think I really love the fact they keep tagging on like token card types onto artifacts and creatures. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, right? If it does the same thing, realistically, Mimic is representing treasure in the same fashion that the gold coins or whatever we've seen traditionally in tokens are. Obviously, Mimics also have the alternate thing of being a monster that can attack you. I feel like there's maybe it's kind of a mismatch in flavor because you choose whether it's treasure or if it's a creature, and then you get it to attack your opponent. Whereas normally it's a matter of you kind of have to guess whether the treasure chest is going to be a good or a bad thing. So maybe that should have been one of these dice roll of where you roll 1 to 10 and you get a treasure. or then you roll like, or sorry, run to 10 and it attacks you, and then anything over 10 you get the treasure. I guess they wanted you to keep the autonomy, and also it wouldn't have made sense not to have just a tap, sack, add a mana of any color and then put the treasure typing on it. So maybe it doesn't function exactly how it should within the D&D game. I'm also really happy to see it in the game, and again, I like this idea of adding these token keywords onto creature types or artifact types. I think it's quite cool. Mel synergy, as it were, as well as like Mel flavor. So yeah, that's my first succinct one. I mean, there's not really much else to say about Mimic being 3/3 shapeshifter. Pretty powerful, pretty cool.
Yeah,
like it.
No, I like a lot. I love the idea that they have Mimic, and the fact they also have like treasure chest in this set as well. Like they have a treasure chest card.
Exactly, which I guess that one gives you the option of what you're going to get out of it. So it would have been weird to do it twice. Yeah, so yeah, good.
Yeah, but I just like the fact that the artwork for the Mimic has it being a chest, which looks similar to another card in this set. Like they could have made it look like anything. Like it was pretty cool. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, cool. My next pick is, I said I was going to talk about it, Asmodeus the Archfiend. Asmodeus the Archfiend or Archfiend. Who's right? Who says? Is it Americans that say Arch or Arch, or is it us?
I think for Fiends, Arch sounds better, but then if you're an Archduke, I don't think it's an Archduke. So I feel like maybe I just
and it's Archangel.
Yeah, not Archangel, but I feel like
because I know we say it one way, and then the people in North America say it another way.
I feel like it's
the fact that I don't know.
Yeah, it's telling, right? I guess it doesn't matter. Whatever. Potato.
That's completely undercut any authority I have in this podcast now. Like, it just doesn't matter. You brought it up, and it doesn't matter. Asmodeus the Archfiend, legendary creature, devil god, 4 black 6/6. That was a terrible way to read that card. It has Binding Contract. If you would draw a card, exile the top card of your library face down instead. It has black, draw 7 cards, and then black, return all cards exiled with Asmodeus the Archfiend to their owner's hands, and you lose that much life. Now, there is another card in Magic the Gathering, which is a very similar ability.
It's kind of Grizzle Potence, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, so it's Grizzlebrand with Necropotence kind of as well, with the black, do this, draw these many cards and lose that many life. But Grizzlebrand is 4 black for a 7/7 legendary creature demon with flying lifelink, pay 7 life, draw 7 cards. Like, obviously the most bonkers mechanic ever, even in formats which are only like 20 life, like let alone in Commander. It's banned in Commander. For
exactly. Yeah.
So the fact that they've printed a legendary creature that can be your commander with Necropotence and Grizzlebrand flavorings, just from a mechanical power point of view, is pretty ballsy. Like,
very much big.
So. Yeah. But the reason I was so excited to talk about it this week is not just because it's like, oh, it's like Necropotence and Grizzlebrand. It's the fact that they know exactly what they're doing, right? With that mechanics. They understand, right? They've banned Grizzlebrand and Commander, like the rules committee doesn't want it, so we're going to have to do it this way. Well, Necropotence still isn't banned, so if we make it kind of in between those two, maybe it kind of mitigates the really bonkers stuff that you do. And I think it does. Like, I've yet to see the internet melt over this card, so that's probably a good sign that it's not completely busted. Still pretty powerful. It will be making an appearance in my Karlov deck, that's for sure. But it's just the fact that the parallels between these two characters. So Asmodeus the Archfiend is the Lord of the Nine Hells. He is the sort of top dog of all the devils and all of like the kind of the fell creatures in Dungeons and Dragons. Basically, he is like the devil analog, right? He is the person who gives most warlocks their power. He is the patron of even other devils, like even other devils, and pledge themselves to him to get their power. Like, he is the big boss. He is the big evil of the hell sort of realms in Dungeons and Dragons, which is exactly the role that Grizzlebrand plays in Innistrad. He was the biggest, baddest demon of them all, to the point that it took Thalia and essentially the death of Avacyn for a short while to even just imprison him, let alone doing anything else. So, yeah, pretty big stuff. Like, and this was what I was talking about the cross-pollination between Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering, is that they couldn't have picked a better analog to do, like, we want to do a new Grizzlebrand, but we also want to pay homage to like one of these big devil characters in Dungeons and Dragons. Well, let's just kind of push those two together, and we'll make sure Necropotence gets in there as well, because that is essentially like a Grizzlebrand ability, but on like a card that's fair ? Necropotence is still very powerful. So yeah, I thought this was an absolute home run. The fact that obviously they've given Binding Contract as his flavor ability, like devils in Dungeons and Dragons are all about committing deals. Asmodeus is a lawful evil character, so it's like he's not just going to be evil for the sake of being evil. He would much rather like trap you in a contract or in a bit of wording, or like he'd much rather torture all the warlocks that he's given years and years and years of like power to. Like I run a tiefling warlock in one of my campaigns. Asmodeus is my patron. He will fucking ruin me eventually. Like, you know. And Grizzlebrand obviously being one of the demons that Liliana made a deal with to get all of her eternal life power shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just thought it was perfect. And it is
really cool.
And we were asking, like, why doesn't Asmodeus, why is he not the Planeswalker? Like, he could have been one of the Planeswalker characters. But actually, no, I think, yeah, him as a creature with that also
you could
less
do
critical
more
artwork.
with him, right?
Yeah.
I feel they probably kind of went for his abilities first, and they realised that works outside of a planeswalk. Maybe this is why Loth feels more generic, because they kind of had to fill in the role. Maybe they swapped him out earlier because they were like, "Oh, actually, we can really push him." And also maybe they wanted him to be a legendary creature, so you can have him at the head of your commander deck. Is maybe another thing to consider.
Yeah,
yeah. But between the adding 4 mana to get the cards to your hand, kind of nerfs a little bit. Like I like the fact that any card draw causes you to exile, so it's not just you're agreeing to what he wants, you're also committing the rest of your game plan.
Ironically, gets around things like Hull Breacher.
Yes,
Hull Breacher is now banned.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it also gets around mill. Well, not yeah, it gets around mill effects as well. Like, is your natural draw steps don't actually kill you.
I like the idea that because the draw and the drawing the cards and then you exile them and then exiling them into your hand are two separate things, which means if you have Asmodeus removed, it's like you have literally that Faustian pact has really backfired because you've done the thing where you've drawn the cards, like you haven't paid any life yet. Oh, but it got exiled. Oh, so you've literally paid 3 to exile the top 7 cards of your library, which I think is really, really cool. Whereas Grizzlebrand is one of the reasons it's so powerful, let alone just because life is in EDH at least, is just an endless resource, really. It's the fact that it's just the resolution is you getting the cards after paying the 7 life.
Yeah, you just
there's nothing in between.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas with this, you even to get the natural card draw each turn, even if you're not activating the other ability, you still have to pay a black to return that card and lose a life for it. Like it's very, very cool. Also, Devil God as a creature type, like holy shit. And then also, for you spicy folks out there that understand how to really break cards, put this in a necrotic ooze deck and watch the table cower, because you don't have to worry about binding contract when you're necrotic oozing it instead. That's just 3 mana draw 7, baby.
Wicked, yeah. Home run as known as the Arcfiend.
Yeah,
love
very
it.
cool. Also artwork, Alexi Briscoe. Like can never do wrong. Like fantastic, beautiful artwork. Cool. Very nice. Cool. So from one inevitable doom to another, skeletal swarming.
Oh, yeah. 3
black-green for an enchantment. Each skeleton you control has trample, attacks each combat if able, and gets +X/+0, where X is the number of other skeletons you control. At the beginning of your end step, create a tapped 1/1 black skeleton creature token. If a creature died this turn, create 2 of those tokens instead. This is like Endless Ranks of the Dead, but but worse, right? Because this is what I've put is I'm getting like serious mummy vibes from this, because realistically what you're doing is it's tackling those waves of undead enemies that reassemble, regenerate. Whenever they kill one of your comrades, it comes back as one of the fucking skeletons, and they keep coming at you. And I feel like this kind of is a bit more inevitable than, say, Endless Ranks of the Dead, which was what you needed zombies to make more zombies, which is how zombies are created anyway. Whereas here, they just keep coming back, and the more things that die, the more that keep coming back. And I like the idea that they come back tapped, so they can't block immediate. This idea of like either pulling themselves out of the ground or slowly reassembling themselves, so they're not immediately available to attack. But once they start attacking, oh buddy, and it's just this, and that inevitable doom feeling is quite visceral. I think this idea of like killing something that's already undead, and then it's coming back, and then coming back with more, and then that hand comes out of the ground around your ankle, and as they come out of the grave, like it's such a typical fantasy trope. And I'm glad they've managed to do it here, like, because it's kind of, it also gives me kind of the vibes of what's that Boris enchantment that makes 1/1 soldiers? Assemble the Legion? Yeah,
that's it.
Oh Legion.
My
there
gosh.
We go. So this idea of like, I like inevitable aggressive decks, but I like the fact that it's black and green. Obviously, the black being the undeath part of it, the green being like, naturally these things will just keep coming at you. It's almost like a force of nature, even if they are dead. Nature can be dead, right? That's still part of nature, decay, right? That's how the Gargari work.
Yeah, sure.
So it still feels within Flavour to have this kind of this tide, this inexorable tide of undead coming at you. Very cool.
Yeah, I really like it as well. Very nice. Cool. We're pinning through these quite quick. I like it. Right, the next one is, this is in one card. This is all the basic lands. So,
Just casual 15 cards. Yeah, sure.
sure. Well, there's 4 of each, isn't there? So there's 20.
Was it 20?
Yeah.
Okay, miscounted.
Yeah.
Yes, you're
them.
right.
Yeah. I mean, we spoke about these before because when they first got revealed, obviously the big shock is that these are the first basic lands to have flavor text on them, and each one of them has flavor text. All of these refer to either specific places in the Forgotten Realms, or they are just sort of generic. I say generic. That makes it sound like they're boring, but they're like the dungeon master talking about the campaign. So, for example, on one of the mountains, it's your path lies across the spine of the world, where every cave hides a new danger. And it's like, oh, that's cool. Or one of the island ones is, as your ship clears the edge of Waterdeep Harbor, you notice pirate sails on the horizon. What has made them so bold? And it's just, all of these just feel so alive. And I don't know if I'm sold on the idea of all basic lands from here into eternity now having flavor text, or even ever again. Like, I would be very happy. I think we said this when we spoke about it last time. They could easily do it and I'd be sort of okay, and they could absolutely not ever do it again and I'd be absolutely fine with that too. These are also, admittedly, kind of harder to put into like decks, right? Unless you really love
if
the
you're
artwork.
going flavor-wise, right? I mean, I guess the question then is, how much do people pay attention to basics outside of going specific artwork to plain relevance?
I mean, I've written a whole article on it.
But no, that's what I mean. But usually, all of that was typically based around the art. I guess you talked about borders as well, because obviously they had the Nyx. You have the Nyx lands.
I think
as well.
People pay a lot more attention than I think most people think they do. I think a lot of people who like pay attention to their basic lands kind of feel like they're maybe one of a few, whereas a lot of people, especially EDH players, but there are a lot of players in other formats do as well. Like if you look at any sort of like old Pro Tour footage, the amount of decks that ran the John Avon Unlands, for example, they were hugely popular. Like people do pay attention to their basics. I think flavor wise, these are maybe a bit harder to put into your decks unless you're running an Adventures in Forgotten Realm character as your commander. And but a lot of the artwork is obviously you can repurpose, or sort of if you like their feeling. Like the island, for example, you don't actually get many islands which have ships on them,
right?
You know, so
exactly.
The
or like that Twister
Island,
one,
yeah, by Adam Paquette. So I think they will see a lot of use. I just like them in a bubble. Just the fact that these exist and are doing what they are doing. It's great, and the fact that they're all very different. The fact that they feel very alive. So the who's the artist for this one? The Sarah Finnegan Forest, for example. The flavor text reads, such a weird sentence to say. As you venture deeper under the boughs of Neverwinter Wood, arrows in a tree trunk suggest you might not be welcome. And the artwork shows a tree trunk with a bunch of arrows in it. I mean, you don't usually get that kind of setting in many basic lands. Like you do in some, don't get me wrong, but Magic basics are often used to be purposefully quite generic, so that even if they're set on a specific plane, they don't usually tell a moment in time or give you like a very specific setting of feeling. Like this is a wood that has archers in it that will try and kill you. That's very specific, and not many basic lands try to do that because it's not what their job is. So it's nice that it is specific.
I guess what I meant.
Yeah, go on.
I guess what I meant earlier is instead of like people not paying attention. What I mean is, I guess these lands give people more opportunity to pay attention.
Oh,
right?
sure,
There's more within, as in like the average basic land hasn't got this much variety, this much detail, as you say, this much life within them, which makes it feel like when you say, "Oh, I don't know if these fit into as many decks," I feel like these probably, because you've got 4 different flavor texts and 4 different very alive artworks, these probably going to be more high. If people do pay attention, these are likely to be higher than the average basic, because unless you specifically want a color palette or a specific artist, as you say, little things like, say, the 2 dudes or the 3 dudes that are on the plains in Titless Luntus one, or the ship that's in the island, like that goes in every pirate deck as an island right now, because most islands didn't have one before. So I feel like those that do pay attention are more likely to go for these because they've got more character and more flavor to them than, say, your traditional like basic would.
Yeah, I agree. These remind me a little bit of in Ixalan block, where we had the base land cycles. It was 1 per land type, which had Jace somewhere in the artwork exploring. What was it? Lonely Island, Tiny Island,
Lonely Island.
Is it Lonely Island's the band with?
It is, but is it? Was it lit like Fuck.
Whatever. He gave it a silly name. He was on the island. It was him exploring it. The worst Vorthos that ever.
No, because now that all I can think of is Lonely Island. Now we've said it, I'm like, wait, but that is the only thing I can think of.
Hang on, I'm gonna have to look this up. That's gonna drive me absolutely nuts.
Oh man, I bet it is actually going to be Lonely Island.
Useless Island.
Yeah. Because later it's funny because he is on a boat. What? Come on. That's perfect.
I loved Ixalan Block and I absolutely adored Alison Lowe's writing. I did not vibe with the term useless island. I'm the kind of person that when other people like gender inanimate objects, like he's so cute, talking about like a pillow or something. I hate that.
Yeah, my mum's named car, and all of her cars have been she's, and it's like, but she does love me. I'm like, it's not an animal. It really rubs me, and I don't know why. I'm so belligerent about people enjoying things. Yeah, literally, it's like, how dare you enjoy something that I don't find there to be gratification in? No, yeah.
So yeah, I really like these basic lands.
Yeah, what I say. Just ranting for no reason. Yeah, these are unbelievable. I'd say artwork-wise, I think these are almost like a deliberate step up as well. I feel like some basics, they go, okay, you can kind of do whatever you want. You don't have to try too hard. Like Johannes Voss obviously never gets that memo. But sometimes I feel like they go, let's push these a little bit more. I guess they specifically with the art direction will ask for there to be subject matter within them, right? Like there's even within like one of the forests, there's a mountain in the background kind of things. It just gives so much more than just, some trees or, some crags. Or okay, cool, a swamp with some dead trees. You know, it doesn't feel like this at all. It feels like everything's very deliberate, very actively like pushed basics. How can you have pushed basics? This is how. Increase the artwork, add some flavor text. That's a push basic.
Shout out to Sarah Finnegan as well, who features quite heavily in this one. Sarah Finnegan is relatively new to Magic, only having done art since Kaldheim. I think they had the Kaldheim glacial floodplain. I'm just looking at it now. A snow-covered plains. And then they had Yavimaya Cradle of Growth in Modern Horizons 2, and now the Forest Island Mountain and Swamp in AFR. So yeah, really nice addition to the kind of land artists, if you like, because obviously we've got quite a few from Titalenta, Pisadura. So yeah, cool.
Yeah, very nice indeed. Okay, cool. So my pet card from the set, unsurprisingly, is a black-blue Still Effect card. Shocking to nobody. I know. Well, let's talk a little bit about Xanathar. So Xanathar, or the Xanathar, as it is actually a title taken by whoever adopts the role, it was originally held by a beholder known by the same name, Xanathar, before being usurped by a ploy from another beholder known as the Eye. Basically, the current Xanathar is considered to be Zeshax, the 14th iteration in succession, according to the corpses on display in his lair. Very cool. I like this idea that each beholder that comes into the role just keeps the corpses of the other ones around them to go, yeah, look what I've conquered. We know for sure this is Zeshax due to one of the best flavor notes, I think, in the set. And there's a fishbowl within his artwork, which is an homage to Silgar, Zeshax's canon pet fish, which is also not the original fish, in the same way this isn't the original Xanathar, because apparently this fish keeps dying and his subordinates keep replacing the fish with new fish, and so he doesn't notice to stop the wrath of the Kingpin kind of going around just killing all of them for letting his fish die, which is in of itself fantastic. I've got a little trend that my next flavor pick as well is a similar trend of this of pets within cards. Obviously, I love Steel Effects. The effect of Xanathar is he's a 4 blue black 5/6 legendary beholder. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose target opponent. Until end of turn, that player can't cast spells. You may look at the top card of their library anytime, and you may play the top card of their library. You may spend mana of any colour, so you may spend mana as if it were any mana of any colour to cast spells this way. Yeah, okay, it's a douchey ability. Completely understand that. No one's going to like me playing this. I don't even plan on sleeving it. It's just, I did have to have a serious, sit down with myself and go, because my initial response was, oh, that's it, I'm overhauling Scarab God. I'm bored of playing Scarab God. It's really annoying. All of the cards that are in it, I can't play online. I'm going to play it in person. It's just stealing people's shit and they don't like it. So I was like, maybe let's change to Xanathar. And then I had to look into the deck a little bit to go, oh, this is worse. Oh, this is way worse. So maybe that's just, I don't know, my instincts are way more bastardized than they should be. But what I really like about this ability is not only does it play to the idea, because he's the kingpin of the Thieves Guild, right? Not
Yeah.
only does it play into that idea of stealing opponent's stuff, but the beholders kind of each coming in and taking the role from the one before. And instead of like repurposing it, being like, no, I'm also Xanathar, and you get to play the previous Xanathar's spells because you get their lair, you get to use all of their stuff, you get to hold all their position, all their titles. You just basically slip in and go, yeah, this is me now. I'm now you. And that's exactly what the card does. It just goes, oh, so yeah, on my turn, I'm now you. I'm me, but I'm also now you. I also get your turn as well, and I get your deck, and I get your cards. So yeah, I mean, again, I know it's a shitty, horrible card that no one's going to want to play against, and I probably won't sleeve it or build it, but I really like the succinctness of all of it. I love the fact he's got a little pet fish. This is also where my second honorable mention came in, because I started looking up beholders. Scary motherfucking creatures, by the way, beholders. Horrible, awful things. They've got 11 eyes, one big eye in the middle, and then like 10 other eyes on their stalks. And this leads me to Eyes of the Beholder.
I'm literally looking at that card right now. Yeah.
A 4 black instant. Target creature gets -11/-11 until end of turn. And when I first saw this card, I was like, what? Why -11? Why are you so ridiculous? And then when I started doing research on Xanathar, I was like, oh, 11 eyes. Oh, wizards, you clever bastards. Yeah. And then the flavor text as well. So the card name Eyes of the Beholder and the flavor text. In the end, there was nothing beautiful to be seen, because obviously beauty is not in the eyes of the beholder.
That Carrie Christensen art is... Whew.
Isn't it so good, right? Everything about this. Because I mean, arguably Eyes of the Beholder is a more interesting flavor pick for me, but I couldn't not talk about Xanathar.
No, yeah, of course.
And it just kind of worked. They both went together.
It's cool that they are including these characters that are on the source books as well, because obviously you have Xanathar's Guide to Everything, which has his pet goldfish on the front cover.
Yeah, which is so good.
And also you have Volo, who wrote Volo Guide to Monsters, and we'll talk about Tashar in the latter part of this episode. Foreshadow.
Cool, but yeah, that's all I have to say on Xanathar.
I agree with everything you said. It's rad, and I don't believe for a fucking second that you're not going to build that deck and play it. So...
yeah, we'll see.
Lying to yourself, Anthony. How about that? All right. My next pick is the card Critical Hit, which is an instant for 1 and a red. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. When you roll a natural 20, return Critical Hit from your graveyard to your hand. A natural 20 is a roll that displays 20 on the die. How do you kill what's already dead? That's how. And the art is by Francisco Miara. Now, the reason this has made it into my flavor picks is not the dice rolling. It's not the fantastic artwork. It's not the flavor text. It is the name Critical Hit. And just this idea that when we were talking about MTG DnD months ago now, when we first heard that it was going to be a thing, we were like, well, how are they going to do it? Are they going to have, like, is it going to be a magic set which is kind of got the flavor of MTG, of D&D, but like is a magic set and it's set in the multiverse? Or is it going to be the other way around? Or are they going to have spells? One of the things that I think was fairly clear even from the off is that they were going to have cards that were going to have like Magic Missile, Power World Kill, like these spells that are literally spells in the game. What I love about Critical Hit is that it pulls this meta joke where people in Dungeons and Dragons, as far as I'm aware, aren't cognizant of the fact that they've made a critical hit. Do you know what I mean? A critical hit is a thing that the player makes, and the dungeon master gives them like the barometers of how they're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other cards like this, like +2 Mace is a good one. Is a good example of this, where no paladin in the Forgotten Realms picks up a mace and goes, I feel +2 stronger. Like +2 Mace is for the benefit of the player and the people actually playing Dungeons and Dragons. And there's no parallel to that really in Magic the Gathering outside of unsets. Like there's no card in Magic the Gathering that's called like combat damage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like +2/+2. It just doesn't work.
It's just called combat trick.
Trick.
Your creature gets first strike, trample,
really
or
good.
+1/+1.
That would be a good name for a red combat trick spell. I bet they will print that now. But I mean, they don't have that same sort of like view on it. And it just goes to show that when we're talking about what the flavor of this set is as a whole, if we kind of sort of double back to where we were last week, this set isn't Dungeons and Dragons meets Magic the Gathering. This is Magic the Gathering presents to you the flavor of playing Dungeons and Dragons using the system of Magic the Gathering. And I really like that pullback and that kind of meta thing of you get to play these legendary creatures, you get to explore these locations, you also, as a Magic player, get to make a critical hit. You get to roll the 20-sided dice. You get to equip a +2 Mace. And yeah, I just think all of these cards, with Critical Hit being the one that I think is the coolest, because it does that, and then it makes it a very Magic expression with giving something double strike. Do you know what I mean? And then it has the dice roll, so it's this nice all kind of like melting pot in an uncommon, 2-mana instant that essentially just gives something double strike. There's a lot of like melting pot flavor in this, and yeah, I just think all of those cards are just it was such a good decision to pull back and be like, no, we don't just want to express the world of the Forgotten Realms. We also want to express what it's like to be a Dungeons and Dragons player. I just think it's very cool.
Yeah, no, very cool indeed. I like it. Yeah, it is true. It's funny that, as you say, it's almost like retroactive, where you do the thing and then you find out afterwards. It's weird to kind of declare it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because imagine if you went critical hit and you actually rolled a 1 and you miss. It's like critical fail. That'd be so much more fun. I guess like if you shout a critical hit and get counted as a blue player, you get to go, super troll. But yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Cool. So from, as I said, as I alluded to, from one lovely pet wielding legendary creature to another pet wielding legendary creature, I'm going to talk about Minsk, beloved ranger. Who is red, green, white for a 3/3 legendary human ranger. When he enters the battlefield, you create Boo, a legendary 1/1 red hamster creature token with trample and haste. Fuck yeah, there's more. And for X, you can, until end of turn, target creature you control has base power and toughness XX and becomes a giant in addition to its other types. Activate only as a sorcery. So this card, for the uninitiated, is going to look a little like Garth, from Modern Horizons 2, where you look at the card and you don't know, what the fuck is all of this nonsense? Actually, it's genius. So Minsk is from Baldur's Gate, not only the place within the game of D&D, but also the subsequent games that were made around Baldur's Gate. He's a kind-hearted but somewhat addled, as it's put, ranger. He believes that his little pet hamster Boo is actually a miniature giant space hamster. Now, that sounds weird already, but the point being that there are legitimately giant space hamsters.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah, sure.
That's the thing that's bizarre. It's like, it's not that he thinks it's one, it's the fact, oh no, that's a real thing within the universe. Already amazing. It's yet to be confirmed whether or not Boo is or isn't, like by anybody within the lore of D&D. It's not. I don't think they deliberately don't tell you one way or another, because they can kind of leave it in the realm of possibility. But he has produced quite a few feats. One of which proving critical in defeating a dragon by attacking it in the eye. And when I was looking up Minsk before the creature token was released, because obviously they've released a creature token with its own amazing artwork. And it's got its own flavor text. People were crying out, going, "Oh, well, why doesn't it have the flavor text on Minsk saying like, oh, go for the eyes, Boo?" Well, that's because they put it on the flavor text for the actual creature itself.
Nice.
So they add this added flavor kind of from this one feat that we know about. And at a later date, in Svardborg, Boo consumes a potion of growth and actually becomes the size of a giant space hamster, which is alluded to in Minsk's ability to be able to pay X to make it an XX and a giant in addition to its other abilities. I just really love the idea that they did this. They went, let's go and find a ridiculous character. And I think I'm a big fan of any cards that make pets. Like, I was a big fan of Karizev because of Ragavan, and then obviously they made a Ragavan a card of it itself. Power aside, it was just nice to see the boy get his own card. Maybe if we ever go back to a D&D realm, maybe Bill will get his own card. Who knows? We never know. But I just love this idea of this individual story, and they just put it all onto the Magic card. Again, this idea of D&D gives you the story, and Magic can kind of set the rules of how to present that in a card, and they paid perfect homage to it. More legendary creature tokens, please. Yeah, they're very, very happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't not. If you have a character that can do something like that in D&D, how can you not give them a Magic?
Exactly. It's just the line of text, create Boo, a legendary 1/1 red hamster creature token. Like, the fuck is this game? What a great advert for both. Fantastic. Love it. Home run.
Next up, we have a brand new artist to Magic the Gathering in the form of Sam Gay, spelt G-Y-A... G-U-A-Y. G-Y-A-Y. G-U-A-Y. No relation to Rebecca Gay. However, Sam did train under Rebecca Gay, under a mentorship program. So that's pretty cool. That's kind of a neat sort of twist of fate.
Imagine if their name wasn't Gay beforehand and they just took the moniker as homage to their master.
Like Xanathar.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, fantastic.
I mean, the implications there are pretty grim, but yeah.
True.
Like, Gay is just like the artist, like
Rebecca's
moniker.
not been writing, not been painting or drawing for years. It's all been under a different person.
We have Circle of Dreams Druid and Wild Shape are the 2 cards from Sam Gay. And I couldn't think of a better artist to give these cards to. The influences from Rebecca are kind of clear, but like the artwork that Sam produces in this style has been something that they've always done. Outside of Magic, a lot of what they do is to do with like sleep deprivation and sensory stuff and dreams and kind of deep recesses of thought and how those kind of spiraling shapes and kind of synapses form into artworks. And they also did a complete tarot card set as well with their artwork on it. So this idea of having the Circle of Dreams Druid and Wild Shape, the kind of story, the narrative that these cards are trying to tell, like this art style is absolutely fantastic. Kind of in the same realm, not art style wise, but in kind of their place within the set, as I suppose you would have with something like Wiley Becker or Seb McKinnon, where they are probably the most sort of far left, like far afield artists to be bringing in with their art style into like a set that looks fairly sort of tight art style wise, and then suddenly you have Wild Shape or Circle of Dreams Druid. And it's always cool to see these individual artists kind of coming in and sort of cutting through a lot of the admittedly amazing art styles and art directions of Magic, and still they can kind of punch through. And that's hard to do as a new artist as well. Like, there have been artists in this game who, like Tyler Jacobson has been a recent example, where they've just gone nuts with their art style recently and just really pushed the boundaries of what they can do. Chris Rahn is someone who does it again and again and again in every set. You just think, wow, that's a Chris Rahn piece. That's awesome. So yeah, it's really cool work from Sam Gay. I really like Circle of Dreams Druid as well. It's nice to see this art style back in Magic. Yes, it is very reminiscent of Rebecca Gay. You can't really escape it. So it's nice to see that art style back in the game because, yeah, Rebecca Gay's not been as prolific in sort of the second half of Magic's life as they were in the first half. So yeah,
that's exactly what I was going to say. It's nice to see that this art style is not only being continued, but it's being reinvigorated by other artists that are willing to engage with it, because again, Rebecca hasn't done much recently, so it's quite nice to have Sam come in and kind of follow that. I guess it's not even a mantle, but it's good just to keep representing these different art styles, because it does pop. Like, I mean, there is something to be said for having an art style that fits within, and we've talked about this at length many times, within like the norm of Magic, that target, as it were. And it's good to know that we still have that border that can be flexed into, because it does really make everything else stand out more when there is variety.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, love it. I can't wait to see. I mean, the Circle of Dreams Druid gets an art card as well, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I can't wait to see these cards in person. I think they're going to be absolutely rad.
Yeah. Also, Guy's Cradle on a creature. Holy shit.
Oh yeah, so yeah, sorry. Circle of Dreams Druid. Yes, I should say is green for a 2/1 elf druid. Tap for a green for each creature control. Yep, Guy's Cradle. There you go. And Wild Shape is 1 green. It's a green. As pay a green, not one and a green. Pay a green for an instant. Choose one. Until end of turn, target creature you control has the base power and toughness, becomes creature type, and gains the ability of a 1/3 turtle, a 1/5 spider with reach, and a 3/3 elephant with trample. So yeah. Cool.
I've just got a headcanon out of a Magic market of people like, how much is it? Oh, it's 1 green, and they get out too much, and they give change back. It's like, why have you given me the change? It's like, well, how much change are you going to give me? Just 1. One what? Well, no, it's just 1, because it's just generic. Anyway, good. That was my headcanon there. So, Flame Skull.
Oh, gosh.
So my last flavor pick was a toss-up between Flame Skull and Demilich, because both have very cool undead arcane Magic vibes. Both of them follow their D&D trope like very closely, or at least as closely as you can. Thankfully, I chose mostly mythics across here because they tend to have more text to them. They tend to have more nuance within the mechanics. I find that sometimes we already kind of spoke about a lot of the hit the nail on the head with flavor succinct like combat tricks and things in last week. So I wanted something that had a bit more, a few more ingredients going into the recipe. The reason I went with Flame Skull is because it's kind of a neat swing on the Phoenix variant. This idea of like a frail flyer that keeps coming back, but instead with a focus on impulsive draw rather than, haste, or giving it haste or attacking or instants and sorceries, that kind of thing, which things like Arc-Light Phoenix, I believe it was, from Ravnica, that made waves in Modern. I think there's some things banned because of it. I mean, this idea of like you push a mechanic far enough and obviously eventually gets broken. I like the fact they're moving it slightly away from that. obviously, so this is a 1 red 3/1 flyer. It can't block, and it has the flavor mechanic, rejuvenation. When it dies, exile it. If you do, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play one of those cards. If you cast Flame Skull this way, you can't play the other card, and vice versa.
Mm.
Really cool decision tree. Anyway, this idea that is a recursive threat if you want to keep being aggressive, or if you happen to flip something off the top, then also very cool. The fact it kind of plays into both of these sides as being a recursive threat and also a impulsive draw kind of engine if you want it to be. What's really cool about this is within D&D, Flame Skulls are they're created from the skull of ideally fresh and from a mage using kind of old arcane or forgotten magic, and they become like sentient skulls. The rejuvenation thing makes sense because flame skulls can, within the rules, even if they're completely destroyed and disintegrated within an hour, they can reform back into themselves again. But then also, due to their creation methods using these precise rituals, they can be created with the ability to cast spells. So they've been known within D&D to cast spells like Magic Missile, Ray of Frost, Fireball. Eventually, I think they errated it within the rules text, within the rules that they would retain all of the spells of the skull of the person they were from before. Which is really cool. I like this idea of when it dies, it comes back, it can come back with a different spell off the top of your library. Imagine if you flip Magic Missile Unlimited with this, and it's like, oh my god, the Flame Skull actually cast Magic Missile. That's again the kind of flavor that I feel like if you can continue to tick the boxes with a card, not only just when you first play it and see what it does, but then also how it plays, it keeps hitting that flavor function, especially when you do a little bit of research like I did. So I looked at Flame Skull and that's a really cool card. Why is it mythic? Why is it so prominent? I mean, obviously it's a very powerful recursive threat, but then when I looked at it properly, looked into its background and saw each of its, all of the different things that make it what it is within the game of D&D, also present on the Magic card. Again, can't complain. Great mix of form and flavor. Very happy to see it. And again, Demolition did the same kind of thing, but it was a bit more nuanced, a little bit more contrived. So I feel like Flame Skull was a bit more succinct.
Nice.
Also, Red Skeleton. I think there's something to be said in this set. There's a lot of creature types that don't follow the normal Magic tropes or norms. Like, there's only one other red skeleton in Magic, and that's from Alara, and that's like Viashino Skeleton. It has like a black activated ability to regenerate it, which obviously then makes it feel like a Rakdos card. But even things like you saw Tieflings in blue. We've seen there's lots of various. There's a horror that I think that's green. There's a popular. Anyway, the whole point of this set is it didn't really care about the typical Magic tropes for creature types. It went no. This is what D&D creature types are. They're kind of across the board, and then the color is kind of based on what they do and who they are and what their allegiance is and all that kind of thing, which I think is actually something we didn't talk about too much last episode, but is very cool to see that they go, well, since we're doing a tropey set, we can kind of move away from typical Magic norms. So yeah, that was my last thing that made Flame Skull cool for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that does it for our sort of flavor picks. There's one little flavor sort of wrinkle that I want to just talk about, and that is the card Tashar's Hideous Laughter. Now, Tashar is a character from D&D. He's quite a prominent character. They are known by many other names. They are known as Igwaliv and Natasha, and they also have a couple of other monikers, like the Witch Queen or the Witch Queen of Perrinland. And they also have the recent source book, one that was released only, I think, 2019, could be slightly wrong, but quite recent, called Tashar's Cauldron of Everything, which is a 5e source book, with cover art by Magali Villeneuve as well, which is a nice kind of like cross-pollination between Magic and D&D. The reason I think this is a bit of a wrinkle is because we don't get Tashar as a creature card for a start, which is odd because we have Volo from Volo's Guide to Monsters, and we have Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and we both get creature cards for both of those guys. But we also already have a card in Magic called Hideous Laughter.
And that's the -2/-2 to a creature of the same type, right? From
it's a black spell.
Yeah.
Now, Tashar's Hideous Laughter is indeed a spell that is in D&D that they are credited with creating, right? So that it's not the fact that that is the name that they've used and that's wrong, because that's actually bang on the money. It was just an odd choice that I kind of felt like I would have liked to have seen a Tashar creature card for a start. Maybe there just wasn't a place for them in the set, but it just kind of felt weird that we have other source book characters that don't get, and Tashar's the one that doesn't get the creature card. But also, I just felt like there could have been could we have not had the Cauldron, for example, from the book? That would have been a nice thing to have had instead of Hideous Laughter, or maybe one of their other spells, like Mind Whip or Otherworldly Guise. I don't know. It was just one of those things where there's been a couple of decisions in this set where I sort of feel like they have so much. They have nailed so much of everything else. Why was it this way that they did this, for example?
Yeah, it's almost like the spell was more important than the character from a kind of play perspective. Like maybe some characters don't, or like in D&D you might not necessarily come across Tashar, but you came across the spell Tashar's Hinders Laughter more. So maybe it's more it's more relatable. But then, as anyone will see, they'll go, "Well, who the fuck's Tashar?" And then you haven't got an answer within the set, which is kind of strange. And I don't mind kind of like the mill effect for laughing, 'cause it's almost like you're losing your mind through laughter. That idea of being, when you're tickled so much, it makes you so angry you want to hit someone. You know, that kind of idea. Like I can imagine it. But yeah, it does feel... I think it's also a clunky name convention anyway. I remember this when this first released. This is one of the first cards that was spoiled after that initial glut with Power Word Kill and Tiamat and who else? It was Vorpal Blade and cards like Vorpal Sword. Sorry, and I think this is one of the first cards that got released afterwards. And I was like, oh, okay, so it's just going to be cute in jokes and 20 things related around the number 20. And then kind of it's funny that you brought it up because now having ignored it for the rest of the spoiler season and come back round to it, I'm like, yeah, it still doesn't quite work, and I am very surprised that we didn't get to Shah themselves, because why wouldn't you? Especially when you put the Hideous Laughter in. But yeah, it's interesting, right?
Don't want to dwell on it too long. It was just one of those little odd wrinkles that I was like, I was. It's not so much this card; it's more that we didn't get a Shah card. I would have liked to have gotten a Shah card, I think. But yeah, overall, this set is absolutely fantastic. It was kind of hard doing the flavor picks because there were so many things that you could have spoken about. Those were just the kind of ones that really spoke to me. Yeah, what do you think of the set now that it's all spoiled and it's all out?
I think it's really cool. I mean, from what I can tell, it's going to be really complicated to play. I guess we already spoke about this last week about how, or even the week before. Sorry, we talked about it as role as a core set, where it doesn't feel typically corsetty in the way in its play style. Obviously, I'll dabble into Arena a little bit in the next week just to kind of see what the limited format looks like. But from what I can tell, flavor wise, really really cool. I've come around massively to the venture mechanic a lot. I really like this idea of going on your little adventure halfway through the game. A lot of the cards are really evocative and they do really cool, powerful things, but not broadly powerful, which I think is kind of the way Magic needs to go. It needs to, if you're going to power down sets, peak their power in places that are really narrow, so they can only go in certain set or certain archetypes instead of just making a set broadly viable, you know, and then it's just a hodgepodge. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, between form and function, again, I really can't complain. Cool. I think the set's fantastic.
I'll tell you one thing that I don't necessarily want to have a discussion about, but I just want to flag it to you. No party mechanic.
Oh fuck yeah, true. They didn't lean on that whatsoever at all.
No.
What? How? They got us. And did anyone actually, to be fair, did anyone really care?
No, it wasn't outcry? I think I saw someone else on Twitter mention it, and I went, "Oh yeah."
That's a good point. Yeah, there was no cleric, warrior, tribal, really anything. There's no tribal at all in this set, which is really strange.
No.
How bizarre! Now you mention it. Oh well, I mean, cool. I guess it didn't matter.
Well, I'm looking forward to playing with some of these cards. I think some of them are really flavorful. I don't think it's gonna at all wrinkle my enjoyment of Magic lore or flavor on the battlefield. I think this has been absolutely pitched perfectly. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you have any favorite cards that you want to talk to us about, please talk to us about them on Twitter at mtflavouring. Do you disagree or agree with any of the flavor picks and reasonings we gave thereof for our cards in this episode? Do let us know. We always like chatting to people. We've had a bit of a glut again of new listeners and people kind of hitting us up on social media. So hello and welcome if this is one of your first episodes that you're listening to.
Ciao.
Hello. You can send emails to mtflavouring@gmail.com. My personal Twitter is at AndyManface. Nathan's, yours is
at the Fox in the Moon.
Please send all the fans and ice to London and Guildford in the UK so we can grab them because it is swelteringly hot. Although there are some storm clouds on the horizon. I think it might storm later. But yeah, exciting. Other than that, I don't think we have any final words other than getting a cold drink and sitting in the shade. I've got an ice pole with my name on it. Yeah, fantastic. Well, all that remains for me to say, is thank you so much for listening. This has been Magic the Flavouring. We'll see you soon.